Hi, welcome to Poetry and Firespitter, a Jayne Cortez celebration. My name is Humberto Moro and I'm Deputy Director of Program, and it's my pleasure to introduce this event on behalf of Camilla Foreman, who couldn't join us today. We at DIA are delighted to be part of the launches that Nightboat Books are doing across the country for this phenomenal book. And our special event tonight showcases the numerous aspects of Cortez's artistry, legacy as a poet, musician, performer, and most importantly, activist. In 1991, she co-founded with the Ghanaian writer Ama Ata Aidu the Organization of Women Writers of Africa, otherwise known as OWWA, which was not only a non-for-profit, but also a UN-recognized NGO. We're proud to host a reunion of the New York-based OWWA members and other loved ones of Cortez for tonight's special occasion. Throughout the evening, we will hear Cortez's music, which I was just dancing to, starting with what you just heard, her band, the Firespitters, which she started with her son, the drummer, Leonardo Coleman. Her poetic monoprints, many of which she made at Bob Blacksburn printmaking workshop in New York, will provide a visual counterpoint along the North Wall. One of Jayne Cortez's great gifts was always to bring more people into the room. And in that spirit, we will play excerpts from the films she directed from the two OWWA conferences titled Yari Yari, which were held before her passing. These clips provide just a hint of the incredible marshalling of innovators and ideas across the African diaspora and beyond. Now, tonight's event will be structured in three parts. First, Faye Victor, J.E. Franklin, Rashida Ismaili Abukbar, Rosamund S. King, and Maciel Alfonso of OWWA, as well as Cortez's son, Dinardo, and artist Melvin Edwards, who was Cortez's partner and whose fantastic exhibition you can still enjoy at Dia Beacon. They will all speak, read, or perform in celebration of Jayne Cortez. Later, we will transition to a conversation moderated by Latasha and Nevada Dix. Lastly, the evening will close with a short screening of Cortez's final performance with the musician Randy Weston. I want to give special thanks to Dinardo and Latasha for their hard work and helping us organize tonight's event. Thank you so much. Thank you to Stephen Motica at Nightboat Books, and to Kim Golding and Max Tonon, and all of the DIA staff who make our public programs possible. This is the last official event of the 2025 Poetry and season, but please do come back to our event this Saturday at 4 p.m. with poet Layli Long Soldier. We'll discuss Buffalo Hide painting in conjunction with our amazing Dwayne Linklater show, which is just next door. Finally, don't forget that Firespitter is for sale just outside this door in our bookshop. Thank you so much, and please join me in welcoming Faye Victor.
My friend, they don't care if you're an individualist, a leftist, a rightist, a shithead, or a snake. They will try to exploit you, absorb you, confine you, disconnect you, isolate you, or kill you. And you will disappear into your own rage, into your own insanity, into your own poverty, into a word, a phrase, a slogan, a cartoon, and then ashes. The ruling class will tell you that there is no ruling class. The ruling class will tell you that there is no ruling class. The ruling class will tell you that there is no ruling class as they organize their liberal supporters into white supremacist lynch mobs, organize their children into Ku Klux Klan gangs, organize their police into killer cops. Organize their propaganda into a device to ossify us with angel dust, preoccupy us with Western symbols and African hairstyles, inoculate us with hate, institutionalize us with ignorance, hypnotize us with a monotonous sound designed to make us evade reality and stomp our lives away. And we are programmed to self-destruct, to fragment, to get buried under covert intelligence operations of unintelligent committees, impulse toward death. And there it is. The enemies polishing their penises, y'all, between our oil wells at the Pentagon, the bulldozers leaping into demolition dances, the old folks dying of starvation, the old folks dying of starvation, the old folks dying of starvation. The informers wearing out shoes looking for crumbs, the lifeblood of the earth almost dead in the greedy mouth of imperialism. And my friend, they don't care if you're an individualist, a leftist, a rightist, a shithead, or a snake. They will spray you with a virus of Legionnaire's disease. Let's call it modern day COVID. Fill your nostril with the swine flu of their arrogance. Stuff your body into a tampon of toxic shock syndrome. Try to pump all the resources of the world into their own veins and fly off into the wild blue yonder to pollute another planet, and fly off into the wild blue yonder to pollute another planet, and fly off into the wild blue yonder to pollute another planet, and fly off into the wild blue yonder to pollute another planet and another planet and another planet and another planet. And if we don't fight, if we don't resist, if we don't organize and unify and get the power to control our own lives, then we will wear the exaggerated look of captivity, the stylized look of submission, the bizarre look of suicide, the dehumanized look of fear, and the decomposed look of repression, forever and ever 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 and ever. And there it is.
Thank you. People have been asking me about this little chapbook that was published by Bola Press, Jayne. And the reason I'm reading from this, number one, she autographed it for me. And she called me her sister in this one, so this was very precious to me. And I want to share with you the time that she had one of those encounters of the racial kind, the kind that make you want to lose your religion. And I'm certain that she left some choice words with those racists that will echo in their ears to the fourth generation. So I want to read from Mouth on Paper, Mercenaries and Minstrels. A mercenary like Ross Steiner will split open your head with a bottle of I.W. Harper in a liquor store in Boston. He'll shoot through every cell in your body and blow you up for kicks on payday. He'll cut off your legs, fire up your thighs, and twist your balls into an American eagle and swastika emblem for this bicentennial. So don't tell me to be cooperative and let the SS Colonel knock me off. Don't tell me that this plantation is changing, and so I should be cool and let the paratroopers fuck me. Don't tell me that I'm just a plain ordinary citizen, because the mercenaries of the world don't give a shit. They have teeth like firing squads, naked women like red devils with rancid breaths, thoughts like infested rivers of dismembered bodies, jokes like invasions into Angola, faces like 10 German shepherd dog tongues. Look, Steiner is washing his mouth with the blood of 5 more Africans. His combat boots go berserk of assholes. There's no controlling this beret pimp. When the smell of dark flesh enters his brain, he goes crazy. Gasoline spurts from his navel. Rockets launch from his eyeballs. He's a butcher, a killer, with a sweet tooth, especially for niggas. So don't tell me to get out on my knees and roll around singing Mammy like Ben Vereen, because Steiner oils his lips with fear sweat from armpits. He belches bullets and smokes toenails. His torso is lit with neon machine guns. He's an ex-pilot in love with war. He's a mercenary with cares only about killing. He's an addict addicted to twisting balls into an American eagle and swastika emblem for this bicentennial. So don't tell me to suck on a flagpole coming through the sockets of a death skull and be cool. The takeaway that she left with me was somebody knows where these people came from.
Jazz fan looks back. I crisscrossed with Monk, wailed with Bud, counted every star with Stitt, sang Don't Blame Me with Sarah, wore flowers like Billy, screamed in the rage of Diana, and scattered How High the Moon as she blew roof off the Shrine Auditorium, jazz at the Philharmonic. I cut my hair into a permanent tam, made my feet rebellious metronome, embedded record needles in paint on paper, talked bopology talk, laughed in high-pitched saxophone phrases, became keeper of every bird riff, every Lester lick, as Hawk melodicized my ear of infatuated tongues and Blakey drummed militant messages in soul of my applauding teeth, and Ray hit bass notes to the last love seat in my bones. I moved in triple time with Max, grooved high with Diz, perdidoed with Pettiford, flew home with Hamp, shuffled in Dexter's deck, rooted with Peterson, dreamed a 52nd Street theme with Fatson, scattered Lady Be Good with Ella Fitzgerald as she blew the roof off the Shrine Auditorium Jazz at the Philharmonic. I shared a long friendship, a familyhood, you would say, with Jayne, starting in 1968-69. And one of the many things that we shared was our deep love and respect for the music people call jazz. It deeply rooted in our work, in our souls. Many people called her a jazz poet because she embodied the ways in which the rhythms and the melodies, the colors and the sculptural architecture of abstract music could be so precise, so on point, so colorful, so pointed. That is something that we shared, and we shared the love of the same musicians. That's what really was wonderful, not just in I love jazz, but I mean specific ones. Bud was always so very precious to me, and she loved him. And so I read this in that spirit to share that with you, and I hope that you will get this book and that you'll look for these records or however you play music, and you'll play it. And when you play it, think about how she must have felt, how I must have felt when I first heard Bud Powell. The first recording I ever heard of Miles Davis, I will never forget, was It Never Entered My Mind, where he played with Bill Evans. And Bill Evans went da-da-dee-da, 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 da-da. And then Miles came, dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee. Play that, listen to it, and then you'll see why this poem is so special to me, and I hope it will be to you. This is the book, and I hope you will get it when you leave. Thank you.
Find your own voice and use it. Find your own voice and use it. Use your own voice and find it. Use your own voice and find
it. An exciting experience to be with my sisters, I mean, all over the world.
One of the reasons, I mean, it's a kind of a selfish one, is that I feel very welcome here.
How many places am I gonna be where I can, like, I'm gonna have Nawal El Sadawi sitting in front of me, like that?
I am with Yadi Yadi. The most important thing is that Yadi Yadi is with me, which means it's with us. Thanks a lot for bringing us here, direct from Havana, Cuba. Yadi Yadi! Yadi Yadi!
We, Yadi Yadi people, we would put on our t-shirts. This is our uniform.
Anybody who knows about race in Puerto Rico knows that race is not about color, but about hair. If you are very, very dark, but you have straight hair, you're India. All of a sudden, you can be as hincho, as we say white, because white means class also. You can be black, but you can be called a blanquita, because if you have money, then you're white.
5. I'm 25 pounds less, nauseous, dizzy. The veins in my arms are lit matches under my skin. I'm afraid of sleeping, afraid of walking. The friends and family around me, however close, are on another side. Some days I can't even see them.
Abyssinia asked that dumb doctor, who professed to know his business, when it came to knowing the colored conditions in the colonies. After cigarettes and cancer, which C will you college boys think up as the nation's #1 killer?
Hyman, 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 heaven, Hyman, 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 heaven and Hyman, heaven and Hyman, heaven and Hyman, heaven and my heaven and Hyman, heaven and Hyman, heaven and Hyman, and my heart beats so that I can hardly.
They made us stop speaking our own language when we came here, and so we started to speak their language. They didn't teach us how to speak the language, so we turned it around and did all kinds of great things, as Jimmy Baldwin says, you know what I'm saying? And then you said it was black English, and you said then it was wrong also too, and I'm in the English department, and no one really believes you can speak English properly in the English department anyway.
Lorsque j'écris mon livre, cette langue est un outil qui me permet de dire, d'exprimer ma propre identité et ma culture.
You carry your Africanness with you.
Yes.
But
yes.
But that does not stop you from speaking the truth as we had this morning. So it doesn't really matter. I tried to stay in Nigeria, believe me, I did try. It just did not work out.
To all you foes, opponents, adversaries or rivals, I wage more war than in your Bibles. I be the lily of the valley and the rose of Sharon. Speak Ebonics like Moses, but more articulate than Aaron. Like Sarah, I leave you barren, drier than the Saharan. Performing exorcisms, I rid you of your demons. I leave you screaming, I interrupt the flow of your semen. To all your heathens, take heed to this. I leave you deedless, then I'll be giving you back to Jesus. Press rewind, cause here I come again with the sinister grin. Here to expose.
We were having dinner the other night, and a woman who was a little older than us, like my grandmother's age, was like, so what is hip hop? And what's the difference between hip hop and rap? And I was like, thank God, you know, there's a difference. There is a difference. And I think if we define, everyone has different ideas of what hip hop is. You have like an old school definition, which is DJing, graffiti, dancing, rhyming, you know, all of that stuff. So that's like the old school, and we can bounce off of that. And I think hip hop is an extension of the diaspora that is about survival. It's about creating a way out of no way.
Any written thought that's you know, has manifested from the hip hop culture. Any written thought, whether it's journalistic, whether it's from a critical point of view, whether it's poetry, whether it's the performance, any written thought is hip hop literature to me.
And I want to be sweet for you, baby, but your spit no longer drips liquid sugar. Teeth are rotting and falling as I speak to my spirit alone, with my things to do list standing on my spine, before realizing your feet are too heavy for my back. So I simply erase your name from the paper. Wet the dead tree with my tears in hopes to grow a dozen more of you. So afraid to let me show you how a real woman can help you find the man in you. My holdings will guide you to the half of you thought you didn't have. So you only offer the little that your body allowed. And in the end, it's never enough, cause I want to smell like it, taste like it, feel like it, walk barefoot inside it, wrap it around my waist, wear it in the shower, take it home with me, share it with my girls, paint a recent CD to it, eat it, sweat it, believe in African dance to it, wash my face with it, hold it, love it, go down my stomach, rock my Adidas with it, let it run down my back, lick it, live it, shake a tambourine and say amen because of it. Still, if I have to, melt chocolate on top of it, just want it to be sweet, baby, sweet like you, like we can be, like revolution.
Yari yari. Yari Yari is how I got, I'm Rosamond S. King, is how I got to know Jayne Cortez and these other wonderful women who you've seen so far. This is a poem called Stop Buzzing Around by Jayne Cortez from 2007, The Beautiful Book. Stop buzzing around in a horn-peeping frenzy. Cover your nose. The dump is burning its love letters on your tongue. The mosquitoes are in the depths of receiving blood transfusions from your ankles. And the sun has a big head and a little cap. So ice up your boxing gloves, Dakar. You are still that punching bag with slit hyena eyes and 20/20 vision in the mouth. And this is In the Crosswalk by Jayne Cortez from 2009's On the Imperial Highway. So the book that they have here, it's so thick because it includes all of Jayne's books. And the one that J.E. was holding, you can't find anymore. So, but you can get it in the big book. They're all together. And this poem made me think of our new mayor. In the crosswalk. Me, I'm just a pedestrian in the crosswalk, and I can't have a nice day in the dioxin. I can't have a great night in the radon. I can't have a fantastic time listening to the voice of a born-again warlord urging folks to blast nations off the globe and bang flesh into chemicals. I'm not thrilled by scenes of human destruction. I'm not fascinated by weapons of mass devastation. I'm not in a blow-up-the-planet cult and ready to ride shrapnel into zero gravity of space. I'm just a pedestrian in the crosswalk. I may not be able to outrun a cheetah or protect myself against a grizzly bear without hardware, but I can use my brains to explain why being lifted into a future of unlimited promise by 60 billion tons of TNT is not enough for me, even though I'm just a pedestrian in the crosswalk. Yes, just a pedestrian in the crosswalk. And this is a poem that I wrote for Jayne. It's called Avant-Garde is a Term of War. The safety is off. We have to laugh. The safety's always off. War begins at home. DV, we are the cavalry. Even in war, laughter. Lip licking, even in war. Fried dough, pepper dished, we are cavalry. We avant-garde, frontline troops, facing down torches, shots, spit, tossed coffee. We the avant-garde, taking direct hits, and we the cavalry, wounds solved with unsalted butter, hate sucked and spit out by the same mouth, reminding us our skin is velvet. We gorgeous, not hidden, not buried. Yari yari.
Big, fine woman from Ruville, for Franny Lou Hamer. How to weave your web of medicinal flesh into words. Cut the sutures to your circumcised name. Make your deformed leg into a symbol of resistance. Big, fine woman from Ruville. Great timekeeper and dangerous worker. I use this hour to eat from your spirit, dance from mouth to mouth with your holler, hold fingers together in remembrance of your sacrifices. And I have chosen to wear your riverstone eyes splashed with Mississippi blood and your sharecropper shoes braided with your powerful stomp, and now in your riot stick neck smeared in charcoal burns and your bones that exhausted the god of whiteness in Sunflower County, I will push forward your precious gift of revolutionary courage. Thanks to the Southern knife with terracotta teeth, magnificent ancestor, warrior, friend, most beautiful sister, I kiss the mud of this moment. Compañera, Havana me dieta. We should have bolted you down like a piece of iron sculpture and pointed you in another direction. But you were busy looking for love in the wrong dictionary, looking for a sweet papa in the wrong encyclopedia, and now I say to myself, Anna is dead, not alive, not returning. What would she think of that? She arrived in the Apple to jog around the park, have lunch with friends, create sculptures, install exhibitions, and get intellectual stimulation from a drunk lover who swears he did not throw her out of the window. Why say performance artist takes a dive, political thinker leaves in a huff, short, intense Cuban shows her anger big, orphan mouth sculptor leaps. Anna did not leap because Anna knew Anna could not fly. So why not say her breath was filled with black beans, green tomatoes, mojitos, and Guantanamera, Guaira Guantanamera. With garlic, cerveza, cilantro, the sweet melodies of Benny Moré, river, ocean foam, dark Havana rum splashes, and the water running rhythms of Orquesta Aragon. Why not say she was a carver of wood and earth, collector of Cuban jokes, a cyclone in blue tennis shoes, a sequin dress machete, forever cutting through the dry thunder of oppression. And it was no dream when she yelled, that chauvinist shit, that stinking little bitch, that phony bastard with his fucking elite whores and his kissing lips full of smoking ass sucking on this corrupt spirit-breaking system of fucked up interventionist agendas. It was no dream. So why not say, if a short rainbow signifies in face of an outbreak of pink marble flames, there will be blood in hair of the dirt storm. And if respect is a somber silhouette etched in consciousness of a warm cave, there will be an erection of hate in Eurocentric bones. If a conspirator plots and you cannot overthrow or float, the navel will never know its umbilical future. Why not say, after the exit of two great drummers, and in between the entrance of one monumental earthquake, a huge volcano eruption, and the reappearance of the tail of Halley's Comet, we lost Anna. But Anna did not leap because Anna knew Anna could not fly. Thank you.
grateful that I was selected to receive this award from this particular organization. It's very, very dear to me.
I told you that the implosion of the United States would occur in our lifetime, that hatred would consume itself, bite off its hands, feed on its entrails, feed on its own children.
It has usually been the journalists, the writers, the poets, the novelists, the artists, who have in many ways been the first to hear the boots.
In spite of everything that's happening, in spite of that, all of these years of suffering, people are resisting. The languages are here and they are still existing, and people are resisting in so many ways, in so many forms, even though it's not always visible. And I see many issues and many problems mostly as opportunities.
As you may know, the Manu River Basin is engulfed in a war, civil war, since 15 years. We have lost more than 250,000 people.
Then globalization right now, to many of us who are working in movements and in struggles, has come to mean a different thing in the press. And I refer to this as the new model of globalization, or if I could refer to it as globalization on steroids right now, which is we have an imposed model led by multinational banks, led by military weaponry, led primarily by the United States elite.
Our presence in the global public instigates all sorts of reactions, some overtly political and known, others not so clearly defined in their political and ideological content. When we move, we cause ruptures.
I am suggesting that facts indicate that there is something systemic about the current assault on the working class, and its tentacles affect the whole of society. In the United States, there has been a drop of $1,035 in income since the year 2000. In other words, we are now making $1,035 less than we were 4 years ago.
Yamagaraninda Marina. In the language of my ancestors, the Gummaroi people of Australia, I welcome you all here today. Firstly, I would like to pay my respects to the traditional owners of this land, the Native Americans. My people don't go anywhere without acknowledging the ancestors of the land. Globalisation is really nothing new to my people. It's just another word for colonisation.
It's so high, you can't go over. It's so low, you can't go under. It's so wide, you can't go around. You must come in at the door. I'm telling you, it's so high, you can't go over. It's so low, you can't go under.
We are in a world of contradictions, a world where all the time I have to justify to the others why I am a dark, black woman writer of Africa.
The first thing that I want to do is to replace the word globalization with the word empire building, which would make globalization not a contemporary phenomenon alone, but a violent process with a long history, with political, economic, and psychic costs.
I was thinking about reading from my work, something that might somehow have something to do with globalization. My mind skipped and skipped and skipped until it finally hit upon a novel, my third novel, called Mama Day. Because in that novel, those of you who know it, there is a hurricane. And what hurricanes do in their birth and their growth is that they follow the Middle Passage.
being a child in Haiti, and when you're a kid, hurricanes are kind of exciting. Nothing like, just you get out of school, nothing like what recently happened in Gonaive, for example.
Nothing is forever, right? And that's what, and so we didn't come here to clutch onto things. And that's why land, for instance, the most visible, the most secure element in anybody's life on this earth is, was not allowed to be held by individuals, because the fundamental idea is that those who are alive now, inherited the land from those who are gone, and they really are just caretakers, of the land for those who are coming.
Okay, hello everybody. Yeah, we're all here, huh? Yeah, I'm so quiet. But wow, yeah. Oh, Yari, this was just unbelievable. Did you see what was happening here? Oh my God, we need that. That's the ladies of OWWA. We really have to be thankful that they're here and what they did. That was just unbelievable. So I'm just going to talk a couple of minutes about my mother. We got some great photos here that I'm really looking at. And what I started thinking about was people use the term like superpower, like everybody's got a superpower. But, I guess so. But then there's really superpower. And I think what that is when a person's vision can turn into energy, which then affects the atmosphere. And so not only did my mother have that, she had multiple superpowers. That's why she is who she was. And so, but having that vision means she could see through, not just below the surface, but into that bedrock, and really understand what the formation of things came from. Then that informed her to have an understanding to know what to do. So people that know what to do, those people are really rare. The people who really know what to do, those people are leaders because they have that kind of understanding. And so that's what she was that type of person. And so I saw that, early on, she was, she was who she was all the time. Her poems reflect, her thoughts on everything and got straight to the point in her way. And as you heard, taking on oppression and oppressors and all of that, she didn't shy away from going right at, what the problems are. But at the same time, she was a mother. So I had a very normal childhood, and in fact, for the most part, she was a single mother. And so meaning we were a tight unit, we were tight. So she took me everywhere. We did everything together. And so for example, in the summer times, this is early 60s, and just in terms of her, we're talking about her as an activist, right? So she would drop me off in Texas in the summers to my grandmother's, and then she would go on to Mississippi and organize with SNCC, and she was very involved with all of that. Came back, worked in Watts at the Studio Watts with the Writers Convention. With her drama group, Studio Watts. Wow, I'm like, thinking about it, I'm like, getting emotional. But so anyway, fast forward, we come to New York. We moved from Los Angeles, and actually getting to New York, we took a trip. It took us to Japan and Thailand, India, Ethiopia, Nigeria, Ghana, Spain, France. So this is a road trip for Jayne Cortez. This is how we got here. So we moved to New York. And at that time, so this is 1967. And this was, And in fact, one of our very first stops was up at Park West Village. We went to see Maya Angelou. And so she welcomed us. And this was the time when people talk about the Black arts movement. I mean, come on. You know, the power and strength of that between all the musicians, the poets, the writers, the artists, you know, Black liberation, you know, that was strong. And so all the independent thinkers and the independent thinking was so threatening to society. You know, that's why they had to try to break that up. I mean, so she was part of a community of people who had superpower, you know. So, you know, but she, in terms of just as a writer, man, you know, inventing language from the language that exists, you know, and then bringing that into her universe and pulling people and dragging the world that is into her world of imagery to let people see things that they didn't see. So just in terms of her superpower, she possessed so many layers and levels of that. It was incredible. So we'll talk more about her then as a musician and having a band and being a poet who had a band for 30 years. And I mean, you know, and then as an organizer and you know, really the spark to get OWWA and the ladies, the Organization of Women Writers, and the Yara Yara events. You know, just so much. So I'm just glad we're celebrating tonight, and it's all in this book of over 400 poems of hers, and it represents so much of the goodness of what she was. Thank you.
It's very beautiful, because if any person's life and efforts should be acknowledged, it's Jayne. It's Jayne Cortez. Just so you know, a little bit of history, personal. We met in Los Angeles because she was often around the studio of Bob Rogers, a designer. And Bob was a friend of mine that I knew, and often his place was a place very interesting people came to from the cultural world, the literary world, just about any place. I lived in the alley behind there and met Bob. And then a couple of years later, I had a job driving in Hollywood. And I would take lunch and stop sometimes at Bob's. And his studio had turned into the office for the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. So people active in the movement were there. And one day, since I often got introduced to people, she was one of the people that I got introduced to. So that's how we knew each other. We were distant friends, but in a couple of years, I and my family moved to New York, and I guess DiNardo and his mother had moved to New York the year or so before. Anyway, the short of it is Bob Rogers, a designer, and I have to say, you have to remember him in relation to Jayne as like a big brother, but also a confidant and a person who could understand politically and aesthetically all that she was capable of. And he encouraged her in many of those things. In that period, if you were a designer and black, you got no national attention. But it was Los Angeles, and occasionally people from Hollywood would buy clothes from Bob. So they were special designs and quality. The cloth that he used, he designed and then sent the designs to Mexico, and they wove the cloth the way he wanted. So certain ideas of clothing, people don't know they come from Bob Rogers. But that cloth and those ideas are there. And he was politically thoughtful, and that relationship with SNCC. And when Jayne, as a part of SNCC, went and spent, I guess, a year or so summers in Mississippi. And when she came back, one of the things that she did was organize the theater group. This is before the Watts Rebellion. So you have to understand that she organized an African-American theater company in Watts a year or two before 1965, And any number of people were influenced by that, and they did workshops and those kinds of things. Since we had all moved within a year or so of each other to New York, occasionally Bob and Jayne would come and visit me and my family. Then things changed, me and my family, and moved to upstate New York. And Bob called me and said Jayne had some poems and she needed some drawings. And he had recommended me, and she told him, nah, he's a sculptor, he wouldn't be able to do that, Bob said, well, let's give it a shot. So he called me, and I drove down to New York, and we talked. And so our agreement was, okay, you give me the writing, I'll take it with me back up to the country, and I'll send you some drawings back. And if they're acceptable, you can use them. If they aren't, throw them away, do anything you want. It turned out to be, well, the way it worked is that next summer I went to Los Angeles, and some mail came, and in the mail was the book. In other words, Fistane Stairs and the Monkey Man's Wares. She didn't ask me whether, or tell me that she just did it, and there it was, and I received a copy, And, which was fine with me because it looked good and I was happy. And then I came back to New York and we celebrated, and I stayed in New York, and by the next book, we were close friends. And eventually, let's say by 1975, I think we actually married. But in that period, DiNardo had become my buddy. My shoulders were his punching bag because he was a teenage young man and all of that. But it was a world of interest in music and culture. And just to clarify things, the word jazz, people had questions about it. And Jayne was often the person they pushed on that word. What is it? Where did it come from? And of course, Jayne said, "Oh, jazz is an African word." And they said, "Well, what language? Where does it come from?" She never quite explained it purely to them. But the logic, and this is where you have to go deeper into her work. The logic is African people moved to the Western Hemisphere. And they continued, as people always do, to evolve and invent. And so it's an African word invented in the context of African peoples who've moved to the Western Hemisphere, and in particular, the United States. It's the word for music, as simple as that. You can't find it anywhere else for anything else. There are a lot of attributes, jazz this, jazz me, and all of that. But all it means when you use it those ways is that you have to be creative. Now, in Jayne's work, her literature, the meaning of words, that volume that's just been published, which is 600 pages or so, it reminds me of, given the age I am, of old men who carried a Bible around, And it's just as coherent. It's just as significant if you really go into the work in depth. you know. I don't mean that she's trying to convert anybody or anything like that, but the information that has been acquired in the period that we've been alive, that is pretty much the 20th century, is its focus. But it goes way back anthropologically. It goes into space and the future. It often describes exactly what this political administration we have is doing, because it's really not new. You know, the Hitler playbook is where the philosophy that we're so much subjected to. But the photographs you're seeing, and I'm having so much fun looking at pictures in the room when we were younger, and people, oh God, so many friends. And it's an Imperial Highway. Well, people don't, most people wouldn't know. If you're from California, Los Angeles, you might know that there is, but that's a highway named by the Spanish, and it exists everywhere. The Spanish community exists in the United States or in the Western Hemisphere. In Houston or in Texas, they call it the OST, the Old Spanish Trail. You know, there are so many things. When I came this evening, I expected a reunion of sorts, and it's more than that, you know. And Jayne Cortez was so special as a person. Her work in quality is known in any number of places you might go to in the world, you know. And it's used to make people expand their own directions, their own work, you know, not to imitate her. That was never the point. The point always was that we've got a lot to do, we've got a lot to find out, and we do have the solutions within us, but they're going to take an expansion of efforts, more than we used to. Technology expands, but technology, you have to always remember, is something that human beings produce. You know, that magic is in her work. Yari Yari and the women writers, there's one man who's been so much a part of that group, because I had so much to do, work to do for Yari Yari. and quite happy to do the work, don't get me wrong, you know. But, you know, I look at the pictures and the times that I've gone, and my basic job was to carry books. You know. I'm glad they all weren't there like this big book we got, because I'd have to, you know. But I remember once the Cuban relationship. They loved Jayne's work in Cuba. It just was special. Many people thought she was from Cuba because of the Cortez. But you know that Spanish words, like English words, come from all over the world. For those of you who don't know it, Cortez through the Philippines in her family. The picture there of Ana Mendieta, you know, well, Ana was a part of our going to Cuba, you know. We met so many important people, and when I say important, people who were creative. I'm a sculptor. Well, I got lucky. The last day on that first trip, we got invited to what they called an homenaje, and my Spanish wasn't good, and I thought, you know, it meant that Wilfredo Lam, the artist, I thought it meant that he had died and there was a memorial. We arrived at the place the next day, and it was a dinner and party for him at a restaurant outside in Cuba. I was supposed to only do 5 minutes. On Jayne Cortez? and over 30 years of memories, I've already sat out there and cried for 5 minutes. So, but it's nice to see. And nice is a small word. It means a lot that people are honoring her work, her life, and spirit. And thank you all for paying attention, and may it all go forward. She left, but, well, Jayne asked for her ashes to be in 2 places in Africa, you know. And so one was Senegal, where she had a house, and the other was Benin, where these days the subject is restitution. But in Benin, and the OWWA of Benin granted. And the OWWA, the present OWWA of Benin, actually was at our house on 6th Avenue and had visited, you know, with us. Her connections in the work are not just imagination, creativity, and fiction. They're rooted in our realities, the realities of the past and the realities that will come. And I just hope that everybody here and a lot of other people in the world just be confident that we as human beings can move forward, because that's what she did in her work all the time. And thank you.
I'm gonna get right into it as we look at these photos and look at the artwork. So this is for OWWA, the ladies of OWWA. Tell us about the origins of OWWA. How did you each come to join?
Well, I was invited to join.
Jayne and I knew each other, like Jayne and I knew each other just the way J.E. knew Jayne before OWWA. We had a history with Jayne before. My first academic appointment was at Essex County College, and in '68 or '69, I invited Jayne, Quincy Troop, Diane McIntyre, and somebody else that I have never, for the life of me, I've never remembered who the other person was. And I created a little forum, and they came and they read. And it was then that I think Jayne and I really formed an attachment. Jayne was very warm to me, I think because I was born on the soil, and she was very attracted to that. So by the time I started going to African Studies Association and then African Literature Association, whenever we would get together, I would tell her about all these writers and things that are going on. And she said, you know, we need a mechanism where we can share what's going on culturally and in the literature and in the arts. And so I would say that her first, it seemed to me that the first thing that she was very interested in was to create a large network, to know people, to hear what they were doing, and to see how they were functioning wherever they were in the world. But she was very interested in the plight of women as women artists and as women writers. And I think that's what, for me, is a prelude to how we organized OWWA.
Well,
Okay. Well, I was invited because I think because Mel and I went to high school together, and we had the same art teacher, and we were friends in Houston, Texas. And I ended up in New York, and one of my plays was being produced by the Theater de Lys through the New Federal Theater. And one night after the show, I ended up in a place, was it a club or a bar or a restaurant or something, and someone came up behind me and asked me, "Are you Jenny Franklin?" I turned around and there was Melvin. Melvin introduced me to Jayne, and we became friends over the years. And when I was giving birth to my daughter, Jayne and Mel picked me up from my apartment in the village and took me to the hospital. And relationship extended.
It's family.
It's family.
Mm-hmm.
A part of the coming together of OWWA, there was a food line in Nigeria, and I can't remember which of the early trips it was, but Jayne and Ama Ataidu were in the line, and I was in line too, but they were talking. And they started talking, I remember very clearly, discussing the idea of the need of a women's organization, and they put it together, and it really was in origin, as far as I can tell. I won't say that's the only moment, because she had many relationships, but I do remember the two of them, and after that was when it took off. And I often had to work for that organization. As a matter of fact, anybody who's wearing an OWWA t-shirt, that's my design.
That's your design. So the design for Yari Yari is your design.
Well, it is, and it was just because I was available. You said, do this, I need this, you do what yeah.
Thank you.
I'm looking at this photograph, excuse me, because that's a piece of mine in Harlem.
Yes.
And that's probably about 1970, the photograph. But
There's many things.
pieces called Harlem Double Circles and that sort of thing. And I remember that day we were there, and she decided to, pose and take pictures and stuff. And we did things like that. And she, as you can see, she enjoyed clothing,
Yeah,
that's and anyway.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to skip to Rosamond. You directed the second ever Yari Yari conference. Looking back at Jayne's footage tonight, it seems that so many of the presentations and conversations still seem relevant. Can you talk about Yari Yari's legacy today?
Sure, and I directed the third one. So we had Yari Yari, and then we had Yari Yari Pemberi, both in New York City, and then we had Yari Yari Ntwaso in Accra, Ghana. And I ended up directing it because Jayne died while we were organizing it. So that was not the original plan. But to this day, the Yari Yari gatherings are the largest gatherings of Black women writers and artists ever on the planet. So, that, and it was done by a relatively small group of people. But this drive to create networks among women was something that was really important to her, for people to simply be able to speak to each other. And I remember there was a woman from Paraguay who started to cry. And we said, are you okay? Do you need something? And she said, in my country, Black people are not valued. You can't even see us on television. And here, to have all of these women together. How many people here, raise your hand if you were at one of the Yari Yaris. Yeah, there's some people here. For years, for probably 5 or 6 years after the first two Yari Yaris, people would say to me, you look familiar. And I said, you know this? And then Yari Yari, yeah, Yari Yari. Because we had the more than 150 people who were participating, and there was gallery exhibits, there were performances, but then there were thousands of people who came. I do want to acknowledge Margaret Edwards and Jessica Lynn in the audience, who are also part of OWWA right now, and Louise Merriweather, Amata Aidu, Cheryl Green, who are no longer with us, who are important parts of Yari Yari. And just one other little story that I'll tell about Yari Yari is that it was very important to Jayne for artists to get paid. And we were bringing all of these women, most of them from the global south, and she said they have to get their money in cash when they land. So I would walk around the village with her, and she had this bag that would have like $10,000 in it. It was very disconcerting to me. But everybody got their money in cash so that they could really enjoy being here and feel that everybody was on an equal plane.
Thank you. My final question is for Donardo and Mel. Donardo, the Firespitters seem to blur the boundaries between poetry and music, between lyrics and poems. Can you tell us about the creative process and what it was like to make albums with both your mother and other musicians? And then Mel, your question is, you designed the covers of many of Jayne's books. Can you talk about how your work intersected with Jayne's and a bit about her visual art making as well?
Well, music just was so important to her, you know, and well, she was a musician. I remember her practicing the cello. And this is early, and she lived in Watts in Los Angeles, and her and her sister, my aunt Jewel, were very avid jazz people. So much so that they would sneak out of the house, going through the window, to go to jazz clubs as teenagers, you know, until the night, you know, they came home and they couldn't get back in the house, you know. But so she is a music person, a jazz person, you know, a blues person. And I know when she started reciting her poems, you know, she actually started very early with music as well in Los Angeles with the pianist Horace Tapscott. That's in the early 60s. So, you know, she always kind of had music as part of her creative process and presentation. You know, now the first record she made was her and the bassist Richard Davis, duo record. And they actually went on tour with Peter Tosh. They went to, her and Richard went on tour with Peter Tosh. So, you know, so then a few years after that, we formed the Firespitters, you know. And so she would, you know, kind of read the pieces to us so we understood what she was talking about. And then she would direct in terms of how she heard the music, you know, in terms of that also just giving meaning to the words and where it was coming from. And then we would just all develop the music together, you know, and it was very organic. But, you know, she named the group the Firespitters because she wanted that, you know, and that was gonna match what she was doing. So, you know, she didn't want anybody to get up there and mess around. You know what I mean? And so we worked on it. We worked hard. Like she, you know, you got to understand how hard she worked. I'm talking about getting up at 5 a.m. every day and writing and staying on it. Then going over here to 23rd and 7th to McBurney Gym and running for 5 miles. She did that every day. Then came back and worked more. So, you know, how she got to where she got to was through her determination, you know, and that's why she always had a kind of focus. You know, so like if you were in her presence, you felt that focus. So she put you on point. So in terms of the musicians, you know, she brought everybody's game up. But she wanted everybody to be fully creative as well. You know what I mean? It wasn't background music. It was fully integral to what she was saying.
Thank you. Melvin.
It's always hard to start anywhere with Jayne because She was profound in any number of directions. DiNardo's quite right about that. And hard work. I'm going to sort of go to the last days of her being, her last days being with us, because I was supposed to sort of stay, you know, and awake and see that she was okay and stuff like that. Well, sooner or later I'd fall asleep. And then I wake up about 7 and she was in her little writing room working on the next project, even in the middle of her illness, you know. And she was that way. But I'm pretty sure I know where it comes from. She came from a military family, and getting up and doing things on time and stuff wasn't a habit developed early in that family, you know. Her family gets a lot of credit for the quality of person that she is, because they just had the dynamics and variety, the organizational ability. Her father was an organizer in the Army, and he was in both World War I and World War II. And he was one that people came to know things. Their family was organizational, and her mother was the same way, you know. It's just a dynamic, you know. DiNardo was quite right to point out, you know, that she had this drive. She just had it at a level that was stronger than most people, you know. I might have been bigger and physically stronger, but, you know, she had the drive. You know, there was no question about that. And when J.E. mentioned that we went to high school together, that was an art class that we were in. Jayne, in relation to her, I did the drawings for all of her books, but toward the later years, when she got involved with Bob Blackburn and the printmaking workshop, and that sort of sparked her earlier interest in art, because in high school, she was as much an art major as a music major. And in one of her poems, she refers to having cut her hair in the form of a tam. That's right. That's, you know, which was a symbol of being a visual artist and stuff, you know. And she understood art very well. She was not a lightweight in understanding. No. She was quite profound, and an encouragement to me. And every now and then I'd get a jab from her about why didn't I do this. She knew I knew to do it. You know? So, but at the same time, she was a very sentimental person about her family and her friends and the people that she had worked with, you know. And always I saw profound respect, you know. You could say the person that you just saw walk by, she might look cute, but you would have no idea the profundity that was coming from within that person, you know. And we had a real gift. I'm seeing the photographs, and I keep turning because there's Leon Damas, there's Romare Bearden, there's Larry Neal, there's Bob Rogers. Anyway, that was a party in 1969 at the apartment, because Jayne had met Leon Damas and decided, and this was October '69, to have a party for him to introduce him to people. And the reason Romare Bearden, we invited him because he spoke French, because Leonardo, you know, we thought it might be necessary, and it was helpful, you know. But it also put together a group of people. And a variation of one of these photographs has just been in Paris, and well, it's still there as a part of a large blow up. This was a trip to Cuba. And Nicholas Guillen is in the middle. Jayne is right next to him, and she was leading this group of 8 African American women writers, and I was the bag carrier.
The bag carrier.
Yeah, but I didn't have to spend the daytime with them because I had a friend in the area who had rum, and he was an artist. She was always thoughtful, so there was always a little something in it for me. And that's Anna Mendieta, and they were dear friends. Anna lived right next door on 6th Avenue, you know, and we were actually waiting for Anna on that Sunday that it turns out she had been killed. We had seen her the day before, and we agreed to meet at a Mexican restaurant, and she never showed up. And we didn't find out what had happened to her until 2 days later, you know. This is a... you're bringing all my memories up by these photographs. So I'm gonna.
Well, I wanna. We're not closing yet. We have one more film, and the film that it's about to be played is Jayne's last performance with the late and great Randy Weston. So sit back, ladies. Gentlemen, can y'all stay in your seats?
Oh, we're gonna stay? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the video will play.
Okay, Ben Jones.
Introducing Miss Jayne Cortez. Yeah.
So to have a conversation in Bambara, in Shona, in Wolof, in Kikongo, Anbandu, in Beti, Bobangi, in Edo, in Igbo, in Hausa, in Yoruba, in Amharic, in Krubeti, Karanko, Barno, Creole, Zulu, Gullah, Twi, and poetry is what everything should be. And it's not too late to roar like a panther from old Dalhome. It's not too late to stare like a leopard in a state of possession. It's not too late to sniff the smoke-dried fish and burnt rubber smell of the blues that gave us the sting of hammer rings, the trill of finger bells, the size of snakes, the scent of seafood, the bark of bulldogs, and the climate change in the keyhole. Let the blues sulk and pulsate and go down into its high nasal Nubian pitch. A woman is deep water. Volta in Aswan, Juba in Zambezi, Sandogo in Ose, Tana in Benito, Clitoris in Cassava, Great Ardipithecus humanizing in the Ethiopian Iraqi Pluckaluk, and 1,000,000 years before Sweet Lucy in Chibuku. Let the sisters of turbulence and derelict deserts stand up. Let the mothers of chaotic winds raise the roof. Let the microphone stuck in the throat of a frog stay in its pothole. No more sacrificial dynastic do-nasty burials. No more catering to clowns and prophets. No more sitting in markets waiting to be examined by new mercenaries. This is not a Sunset Negro Limited line of chippy bars in the piney woods of abandoned woodpeckers. And anyway, who created the transatlantic, trans-Saharan slave trades? Strike the gong, baby. Africa is calling back the missing ancestors. And when I close my eyelids, breathe in spring, eat blossoms, and think about the world so hungry for propaganda, I remember the ancient tombs and the greedy rulers whose middle fingers became symbols of imperialism in the Great Awakening for more power. And when I put these facts together with the damp dungeon pus from Elmina Castle and the bloody raffia from the Congolese Republic forced into the habit of raping itself, I have a portrait of the assassination of Patrice Lumumba, and nothing can cancel that image. look through rusty mist of the harmattan, I can see folks who left from the last exit of the slave caves of Gorée. And they didn't have on orange polo shirts and plaid shorts. They didn't have on sunglasses and blonde wigs. Their cookies were not wrapped in foil. There were no diamond studs in their teeth, no gold chains around their necks. During that journey, they were hugged up in excrement of another reality and did not arrive as pilgrims to uphold the Church of England. They did not come here to do any of that. They had to clean the mosquito-infested swamps for people who did not have a pot to piss on in Europe. So right now, I'm thanking all the ancestors. That's right, all the ancestors who libated for us and at the same time poured libations for their ancestors and the ancestors of those ancestors. Because ancestors mean land, and land means air, and air means trees, and trees mean movement, and movement means struggle, and struggle means Africa, and Africa means more than Bisop Dita, palm wine, millet, beer, coffee, beans, saza, fufu, moi moi, injera, cocoa, oil, gold, coltan, and fudan. It is more than wild animals at the water hole and human animals eating fried crocodile and wildebeest kebab in the Preservation Park restaurant. Africa is origins of life, is knowledge, and belief systems, and Benin, and Fan, and Nok, and Bozo, and Dogon, and cosmological mysteriosos, and Fang, and Luba, and Riti, Tukalar, Futa, Jalon, and the blacksmiths calling themselves Numu, and Numunaki, and Tuge, and Tuge. And when I put on my Firespitter mask to ride the rough ocean currents and follow evolutionary changes within the music, to make a direct path for sucking every superstition out of every shadow on the planet, I'm gonna swallow the checkpoints, frenzy the atmosphere with spit, turn inside out, upside down, and be unruly as unruly can be. Because a woman is deep water, deep earth, deep time, and a patois that nobody really understands till it becomes like folklore dropping its drawers over a dizzy lavender dawn or recycled lemon sticks. I'm not crying. I'm not moaning. Let the Milky Way burst its nut house of atomic foam across the sky. Let the cutthroat lingo of dependency slash its own neck. This is not a one-night stand on Ikun Street, or another bureaucratic day in the grand army of aluminum pots and pans. This is not have mercy, mercy, mercy on me, baby. This is Blue Nile in Nubia, purple lip phobia, dry flesh marooned in orange powder, rebellious bone chips from OWWA Gorge, banjos howling from the Sudanese border, confirmation in dark shadows of the bird flight. And the feeling you have facing a real lion is not the same feeling you feel when shopping for shoes. Revolts are sophisticated parrots rebelling against silence. Ideologies are whelps on the butts of burros. Life is an endangered species in an old camel-haired coat. Timbuktu is a poet in distress. Egypt emulated from the womb of Nubia. Kush was a flamboyant before-life, afterlife innovator. Kerma was a main tap dancer in the Club Oasis. And the crossroads have become military bases for religious revivals and the eating of fried eggs and pesticides. But if you know your spirit, like the moon knows its belly, you can sway between two sandstorms and dance on the cliff top like all the pelvises represented by great Ardipithecus in a rocky pluck-a-luck. And stand by Mrs. Lockjaw, waiting in lava flow of the next riff in the next century of discovery. Because a woman is deep water, deep earth, deep language, deep time. And when you see me coming in my Firespitter mask, pull down the shade. And when you hear the music flying into its upper, lower, African, Nubian high fly, open up your ears. And when you walk out tonight, think about the meaning of Artie and the life of Trayvon Martin. And push straight ahead. Adupwe.
Jayne Cortez.
Everybody say Firespitter. Firespitter. Everybody say Firespitter.